Well, good morning, afternoon, whatever time of day it is. It's Dr. Bruce with Tip 27. Hope you're having an awesome day. This is interesting stuff today. I would like you to imagine for a moment that you're 400 pounds and you're told to go on a diet, and you're told that you can't go on a scale, you can't look in a mirror, just eat this painful food that doesn't give you any satisfaction, and just do it. How long would it take you to finally say, heck with this, give me a hamburger or give me a mirror, do something? Because people need feedback in their life. I mean, imagine if you were being perfect, if you're 400 pounds, a month could go by, you could drop 50 pounds, but if you look down, you don't see the difference. And so when I say that, it's a contrast. And so the contrast I'm talking about today is progress exams. People hate doing progress exams, but what I look at them is opportunities to keep people motivated towards their care. The purpose is to let the patient know their measure of improvement. The criteria used to determine the progress exam is they feel better. That's one thing, but if you're going on symptoms alone, after 12 visits, you're probably going to lose the patients, because the bottom line is they're going to feel better. I don't know anybody that has 3 or 4 adjustments a week for 3 or 4 weeks is not going to feel better. I mean, it's almost impossible. So if you're using that as a criterion, they're not going to stay with you, and that's when they start dropping out. Again, I can say this without a hesitation. Every office I've ever developed, worked with, doctors I've worked with, that I've been around, seen, touched, whatever, everyone I see, when they start losing patients is when patients feel better. And that's a typical response to an office that does not educate. So we want to see improved biomechanics. We want to see like an improved range of motion. So in the first exam, when you showed decreased range of motion, you showed them the consequences of that. Having no flexibility, showing flexibility. Obviously, improving your neurological and orthopedic tests if they were positive. And of course, over time, comparative X-rays. That's a long story on the comparative X-rays. I used to do them every 24 visits. I stopped doing that years ago. I do them now annually. But with that situation, the most important thing is I say structure and function. So I want to see functionality, posture, all those things. And in doing so, then that's how we determine their progress. And then I give them goals. If you're going to have somebody, especially on a year of care, they've got to, for their own motivation, it's the American way, or I should say it's the Western way. I've got a background in martial arts, and I tell the story that thousands of years ago, whenever they started doing, the training, with the monk over in Asia, a young kid would enter in, and they'd put him in a pair of white pajamas, so to speak, and a white belt, and then the black belt was actually a symbolism of he's practiced so long, it's just dirty. So the reason why the black belts became black belts is because it was a recognized, long practice. Well, over here, when you join a karate studio, every month they give you a new color belt, yellow belt, orange belt, all kinds of different belts, stripes on the belts. And the reason why our Western civilization needs immediate gratification. We live on gratification. And if you gave a kid just a white belt and just had him practice for years, and then also all of a sudden said one day, okay, you're a master now, there wouldn't be very, very many people in school. That's just because it's not our culture. Well, think about that in your practice. People come in, and what's their contrast? They come in pain, and they get adjusted, all of a sudden they're feeling better. Why continue on? Would you, if you didn't know the difference? I mean, just because someone says, keep coming, it's good for you, they got to know why. What's in it for me? And the progress exam is your opportunity. Every 12 visits, I do a progress exam, and I give them goals for the next exam. Mrs. Jones, last time we had about 20 degrees of rotation in your neck. I hope to work on this. The next progress exam, we're going to see at least 30. You have a low shoulder right now. We want to see that, becoming more normalized. Whatever you want to do, give them some goal to strive for. Because then when I do examinations, I hardly ever even discuss symptoms. A symptom going away is a sign of progress. That's all. A posture returning is a sign of progress. Increased range of motion is a sign of progress. And all those things. And so therefore, more energy, all those things are basically the benefits of a healthier body. And so to determine that then, this helps keep people motivated to care. When their motivation now is a more functional body versus a body out of pain. And that's the key. So my goal in practice is maintaining the structure and having to have normal function. And care schedules. This is another thing. So many people, every time there's a progress exam, they lower their schedule. And I don't believe in that. I mean, I practiced that way for many years. I used to say 3 for 4, 2 for 4, 1 for 4, out the door. And my justification of lowering their visits, and I think very often, and since this is like a online thing and no one has to look at you, ask yourself the question: does it make you feel good once in a while when you kind of like lower their visits? Like, okay, Mrs. Jones, you're better now. Here's less visits. It's kind of like it's validating yourself. And it makes you feel like you're such a great doctor that you've gotten less visits. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, you've graduated, and they make a big celebration out of it. And that's the wrong thing. That's not the intention. You go to a gym? Do you ever work out? Do you exercise? Do you sit there as you get stronger? Do you start bringing back your training, or do you increase your training? I don't know anybody that's a bodybuilder that goes, that works out hard for three weeks and then less hard for 2 weeks and less hard for 1 week. They don't do that. They intensify. So in my care schedule, I intensify until I get what I call maximum chiropractic improvement. When I get the person back into a functional body, when they've got the full range of motion, they got their head back on straight, so to speak, their posture's improved, they're more functional, and there's no restrictions. They're freely absent of pain for a long period of time. I know people, and you've seen them probably too, if you're normal, sometime in your career, if you're perfect right now, you weren't in the past. So everyone has had situations where patients have walked into your office and said, oh, doc, I need you today, because, and it's their monthly, visit, but they walk in pain. That's not wellness. That's pain management. Once a month, you adjust them to get them back out of pain again for a few days. That's pain management. Adjusting them to get them out of pain and then backing off their adjustments, once they get out of pain, is more pain management. Corrections intensity. So I see people 3 times a week, for 8, 12, 15 weeks until I start seeing that the range of motion's better and the gait's better. And at that point, I might back them off to once a week and stabilize the correction, making sure they're holding that correction. If pain comes, obviously if pain comes back, we haven't done our job. And pain shouldn't come back if you normalize them. So never reduce a patient at the re-exam. It sets up expectations that's the goal. Hey, it's re-exam time, doctor. Oh boy, I get to get less visits. Just like with employees, we're having our evaluation. If you tell an employee they're getting an evaluation, instantly they think they're up for a raise. And they're not. All you're supposed to be doing in an employee evaluation is looking at how they're doing and give them criticism, give them kudos if they deserve it, obviously. But it's a review of their job. It's not basically a time to see if they get a raise. Raises have to be on different situations, not just based on every 90 days they have a meeting. Well, same thing with a patient. Every 12 visits they don't get to have less visits. They get to basically, in my case, they are coming in and they're getting motivated that the work they're doing is working. They're getting to see the progress. They're getting to have some contrast. Imagine just coming in every day and getting adjusted and walking out. Come in, get adjusted, walk out. After a while, you wonder how you're doing. It gets boring for them. They've got to have contrast. They've got to see things that are happening. So the re-report of findings for me is pretty much, I do it at the end of the thing. I just tell them how they're doing. I've shown their progress, and where they were and where they're going. We also have them fill out, we have a form they fill out, and it's mostly a questionnaire about their understanding of chiropractic. And so they fill it out. They respond how they put on there how they feel they're doing, and then we look at them, and especially if they've not really reached their goals, if they're not showing improvement, I intensify their care and tell them that they're going to have to get on the stick or we're going to fire them. I make them have to earn to stay. Most people are trying to get new patients and trying to keep them. That's really coming from a point of view of lack and limitation, and it's also a point of big weakness. A strong person doesn't sit there and beg people to be their patient. A strong person says, "You're lucky to be my client." They don't say it that way, but they feel it. They invoke them, to do the best they can, and if they're not trying, they say, "Hey, listen, this is a waste of our time. You're coming in here, you're spending your money, you're taking my time, and you're not taking it seriously. You're not getting better." And truthfully, and I say this to people, I don't want you to come in here and fail. It looks you've not got what you wanted, and it looks bad on me. I'm staking my reputation on your results. And if they know you're coming to me and they don't see you getting better, they're going to say, "Well, Dr. Parker is no good." And that's not true, because you haven't been doing what Dr. Parker told you to do. So we do that. The only reason that people don't do them, I think doctors get lazy. So quit being lazy. You build this is your business. This is a potential $1 million business of yours. If you just take care of people and get them engaged, and once you get that momentum going, they stay and they refer people naturally. Some of the biggest practices I know, the doctor is very relaxed. They're not stressed out all the time about hope they get a new patient today, hope that people can have good insurance. They don't live in those areas. They come in, they see their folks, they take care of them, and they go home and see their family. Weekends they travel. I mean, running a big practice is fun. And it comes from having good rudiments. All the stuff I've been talking about on these tips, if you notice, is not just quick ways to get new patients, because that's not the answer. You don't build a practice from having quick schemes to get new patients. I've said it a million times. You do this stuff. You keep your rapport up. You keep your contrast up. You keep the patient knowing you care up. And in doing so, you keep them invoked and you keep them wanting to be there. So at this point, do it. It's the most forgotten procedure in this book. And I know people don't do it for these reasons. Listen to this. Progress and re-exams are not performed to even give a report. Re-reports of findings, what we're talking about now, re-reports of findings are never given because most people never do progress exams. But when I do a re-report of findings, I'm basically just showing the contrast anyway. But by doing that, it keeps people going forward. Our goal is well care. Building a well care practice begins on the very first visit with each new patient and continues throughout the entire length of a patient's care. That's what well care is, the goal. Well care is what I want. So all the time I'm talking about people, and I'm getting them to the idea of being healthy, being vital. And in doing that, that's where we stay. When they're in pain, we got to get you out of pain, Mrs. Jones, so we can get you fixed. We got to get you out of pain. We have to increase your function so you can be, more functional and have a healthier life and a better life. We got to get you to well care. That's the goal. That's the conversation. Instead of, we got to get you out of pain. How you doing today? Oh, it's feeling better. Well, it's great. You're feeling better. That's not your rap. Stop that stuff. Good morning, Mrs. Jones. Glad to see you. Happy to see you. Let's get you on the table and get you checked. That's the dialogue you use. Instead of, "Hi, Mrs. Jones. Oh, you look wonderful. You're feeling better now, aren't you? Isn't chiropractic wonderful? How you're feeling so much better? Who do you know that needs to feel better?" That old-fashioned, stuff doesn't work. Building your practice based on symptoms, building your practice based on always trying to feel better, doesn't work. Build your practice on the idea of validating that they are stronger, healthier, and more vital now. Procedures that we're doing are designed to keep the patient on track. The Total Practice Blueprint is all about keeping people, from the minute you meet them, guided through from acquiring a patient to connecting with a patient to transform them to lifetime care. And if you deviate from it, what's going to happen is it's not going to work. In my situation, I can go back and look at my practices, and I can say this, with no reservation. My very first practice was my best practice, because what happened was, and then later I learned, and then it all became good. But my very first practice, I remember 10 years after not being there, I had had an associate doctor run it, and then I later sold that practice, for some other reasons. And I was in the area one day, and I ran into a doctor friend of mine who had just been doing relief in that office. And she says, Bruce, she goes, I was just working in the Mira Mesa office. I said, oh, really? She goes, yeah. Doc's out of town for a week. It's just amazing. Almost every patient I saw used to be your patient. Now, I had not been there for 10 years. But when I first started that practice, I was perfect. I got through, everyone went through the whole program. They understood it. They went through lifetime care, the whole philosophy. And, even though I'd been gone for over 10 years, they were still there. Although, I noticed when I had an associate in that office, their patients came and gone. The foundation of that practice was my original patients. So what would have happened to that practice if the person that took it over would have continued on that same progress? If that patient would have continued taking the new patients and putting them through the procedures all the way. They would have had 10 years of people developing, lifetime care. 10 years later, that practice would have been, absolutely booming, because my patients were still there 10 years later, but theirs were not, because it became a pain relief practice. So the procedures are vital, and they're decided, they're set up so that you can have the practice of your dreams, and it takes a little work. And I got ostracized for saying that. Don't tell people it takes work. They don't want to know it's work. You know what? If you don't think if you think it's easy to make $1 million, you're crazy. It takes a little bit of work. It's not hard, but my point is it takes effort. It takes focus. It takes action. The average person that I talk to works in their office every other day. And when they're off, they're not working. They're off. Try working, for 5 years. And that sounds like a lot of time. 5 to 7 years, come on. In 5 to 7 years, you stay with these procedures and build the foundation of that practice solid. I guarantee you will be financially independent. And that's actually anybody who's my client that'll follow my program during that time, I will guarantee it. Because it's impossible to not become financially independent if you put all the things in place. All right, Dr. Bruce, see you on the next video.